Hey everyone, welcome to the Anderson Bros Outdoors. I'm Jake, and today we're going to cover the Vanquish origin, so stay tuned. Look at that. Look at that beauty. Hey everyone, welcome back. As I said, my name is Jake, and today we're going to cover the Vanquish origin. Now, we may miss some stuff because we're still learning about the truck as we just got it last week. We did a live unboxing on it. However, I was able to get it put together, as you can see here. We've posted some pictures online on Facebook and Instagram, and maybe some short clips on getting it together on TikTok as well. Really cool detail to this truck. And I kind of want to give a backstory to it. So this truck is named the Origin, the H10 Origin. The reason for that is the axles are H10 axles. They have this beautiful hydraulic ram on the front axle, and it is for the front steering links, and it replicates a one-to-one truck, if you will. More specifically, this ram gets rid of the chassis-mounted steering on your scale trucks. So my Jeep over here that you can't really see in the footage will get 4-link in the front, and I'll remove power steering location, which is in the front left of the chassis. So that'll get removed, and I will at some point put 1-tons under it and add a hydraulic ram steering cylinder to the front axle just like this. A little bit of history here. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it because this is not the purpose, but the reason to do the hydraulic ram in the front is it eliminates the chassis mounted steering, as I've stated, and it's actually more powerful than the stock power steering system. It's a lot more capable, and it also removes the restriction of the travel length in the front, because typically you have a panhard bar which connects the axle to the chassis, and your panhard bar controls the axle movement up and down from going side to side. Now obviously this truck is 4-link, meaning that there are 4 links connecting the axle to the chassis. If you have chassis mounted power steering, then you only have a 3-link front, and that 3rd link actually connects right where the panhard bar connects, or the traction bar, whatever you want to call it. The H10 is not named after the optic. The H10 is named after the axle. The optic, which is another Vanquish product, is an H10 platform as well, but it is an optic. This is an H10 origin. Again, and I cannot reiterate this enough, H10 is the axle. It's not the truck itself. Anyway, now that I've wasted that time, this is a brand new truck for 2025. Really, they've been in development on this for, I would say, the better part of 2 to 3 years. However, it was just released. Now, going back to the original one, this is called the Origin because they were able to trademark this. The original truck that is kind of designed this way is the Ripper. A lot of people refer to it as the V1. That truck was released in 2017, and the biggest difference is the price point was a little bit lower. So you were getting a machined chassis with machined panels, and the price point was right around $1,800. From watching videos and listening to the Vanquish team talk about it, that truck was specifically made for an event at Proline by the Fire. Proline by the Fire held an event in either 2017 or 2018 that required you to have a metal cage with metal panels in order to participate. So Vanquish created the original Ripper, which is like an Ultra 44 car. Really, it was modeled after a Jeep. I think that there was around between 160 to 180 of them made. I think around 160 of them were sold. Obviously, Vanquish in-house has probably between 10 to 20 of them for their employees, which is really cool, by the way. But the original one was intended to go on a Axial SCX 10.2 builder's kit. Vanquish had axle housings for the Axial, and you were supposed to take the chassis and panels, put it together, and throw it on that C-channel chassis with the 10.2 builder's kit. Now you could do other upgrades as well, such as lights and the axle housings and drive shafts. I mean, the upgrade possibility is limitless. Anything you look at on most trucks can be upgraded. Now, if there's a manufacturer making upgrades for them or not, that's another question in and of itself. But The possibilities are endless, really, limited to what you can think about or have access to building. So the original truck was the Ripper. The price point was around $1,700 to $1,800. And from my understanding, they were available for order for over a year. Nobody was buying them. Fast forward to 2020 to 2023, and everybody wanted one. They were like the golden ticket. I remember seeing people list them for between $15,000 and $20,000, and people were buying them. Obviously, the demand is there for the vehicle, and that's when Vanquish started to work on the second version or iteration. Now, I think personally, and this is just my opinion, I think that they were working on this almost immediately after. They probably took a 6 months to 12-month break on the first version, but I think after that, they probably started to at least subconsciously think about version 2, which is what this is. Now, the reason that this isn't called the Ripper version 2 is due to legalities. The Ripper name is probably trademarked, and they couldn't trademark it. So they trademarked the Origin name. Their first builder's kit for their product line was actually called the VS410 Origin. And so it made sense for them to take the Origin name and trademark it and then call this the H10 Origin. And so that's really kind of where we're at today. We had the Ripper V1, which are still really popular. I saw one on eBay sell for, I believe, $7,500 within the last 6 months. And you don't really see them. Now, some people list them every now and then, but for the most part, people are holding on to them as a collector's item. And there was only ever 160 made, so I would do the same thing if I were them. However, if I have a truck that's open, I'm going to run it. That's a little bit of history about where the starting of this truck came from. And now let's talk about this truck. So this truck is a full kit. It's basically ready to go out of the box in terms of kits. The only thing that you're going to have to put on the truck to get it to function or get it to drive itself is a motor, a servo, and tires. So obviously you're going to need inserts for the tires. I'm not going to include that because most tires come with some sort of foam inserts, whether they're good or not. It's relative. What we're looking at here is the entire kit or piece of the puzzle that you're getting when you make that $3,500 purchase. So let's talk about that for a minute, the price. Base price for the truck is $3,500. Now there are 8 different options in terms of colors for the chassis, the panels, and the wheels. The axles will only ever come in the 2 colors, clear or black. So if you order the panels or the chassis in a black or clear color, it's free. However, if you order the panels or the chassis in another color, such as gray, red, blue, orange, bronze, or gold, those are the 6 other available colors. That's an additional $99 or $100 upcharge. That is for the panels and the chassis. So you can get 8 different colors for everything but the axles. So the body panels, the chassis, and the wheels. However, just know that the rings, you will have to order the rings separately. You will also have to order the scale items separately. You could be spending up to $3,700 before tax and shipping on this truck, depending on the colors that you go with. Personally, I assumed that the price was going to be closer to $4,000 to $5,000. I mean, you have to understand, you're taking a single block of aluminum, right? So you're taking a huge block of aluminum, you're putting it into a machine, and you're turning it into these pieces. We're not putting a sheet of aluminum into a mold and stamping it. We are machining these pieces out individually. I want to say, and this could be wrong, but I want to say that Jim, the Ripper machinist, on one of the live streams stated that there were like 15 million lines of machine code. I did the math the other day for fun, and if each one of those lines took 30 seconds to create, it would take roughly 14 years to do every single line of that machine code, like dedicated 14 years straight. Now, obviously, each line probably didn't take 30 seconds, but that's just to give you an idea of the amount of work involved in building something like this. So the next time you think, hey, I want a product, or I want these axle housings, or I want this or that or the other, and you think that they're way too expensive, you have to understand that on that same live stream, Jim stated that a lot of the R&D, the research development, and the time that it went in to build these panels and cage and everything, he said he's not really counting that towards the cost of the truck, which is astronomical. I mean, that's really unheard of in the business world. So huge shout out to Vanquish for that. So just know that when you're purchasing the truck, that you're actually purchasing a $5,000 to $6,000 truck minimum just based off of the amount of machine code that there is. Now, again, I don't know that there's actually 15 million. I'd have to go back and rewatch the video, but just programming the CNC machine probably cost a significant sum of money. The price tag is relatively low in the grand scheme of things. So if you watch the original video that I made when they announced the Origin, I took their numbers that they said on the live stream, a potential of having 999 trucks. So this truck is number 53. 053 is on the back. And by design, they created a numerical value of 3 places for the truck number. They stated that was by design. They were never going to make more than 1,000 of them, counting 000. That's why they went with the 3-digit serial numbers. With that being said, they said that they could probably make 1,000 of them in around 2 to 3 years. Based off of that math, you're looking at probably around 75 per quarter, which means that if they make these for 2 years, you're only going to see a max number of around 600 of them. In the grand scheme of things, this is going to be a relatively low numbered truck. Now, I will say that Vanquish has made a lot of their money on flagship parts and accessories for vehicles, and predominantly in the machine space. So axle housings, knuckles, transmissions, things like that, things that can be machined and provide substantial increase in terms of strength and reliability for your crawlers. They started their business doing that. And so circling back to the price, I think that the price is justifiable. I think $3,500 is relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things. The amount of time and experience alone to build these panels, I mean, look at the depth. So if you look at these body panels, you see the depth of them. I mean, these are thin panels. These are probably 10 to 15 grams a piece. And you can see all of just the absolute beauty, because it's not flat, right? You're not machining flat, like you're machining legitimately on a 5-axis CNC, where not only is the head rotating, but the bed is probably rotating as well to accommodate some of these body lines, because it's not straight or flat. I mean, it's really curved and bubbly. And, everything lines up so well. Again, I think that the $3,500 price tag is justifiable, especially for what you're getting. Now, I know that I've stated previously there's some room for improvement in terms of scale-esqueness or additional features on the truck, but I want to clear something up really quickly. Now, if we start adding different possibilities to this truck, that $3,500 price tag exponentially increases. So let's just say we added the ability to do axle housings at 8 different colors, just like the rest of it. We have to add potentially an additional 10 to 20 hours of labor to this truck. We have to have somebody take all of the orders, pool them together, get numbers on what axles do what, keep the axles in the same batch as the panels and the chassis, because if you send those items to different batches through the anodization process, you're going to have different colors potentially. You're looking at a significant increase in manpower alone just doing that. Not to mention it's probably going to be another $100 upcharge for the anodization, things like that. And so in the grand scheme of things, if you're getting something like this from an Axial or a Traxxas or a Horizon Hobby, you're probably going to be paying $5,000 to $10,000 for the very same truck. It's not made for everyone. Only a select few out of the RC enthusiast hobby are going to ever want to own one of these, and that's completely fine. I think one of the things that they had discussed on the live stream was how long-term monetary value increases don't impact them, and I will disagree. I think that if these trucks decreased in value, nobody would really buy them. Now, there will be some people that buy them like me for the channel. I'll buy it and run it. I'm going to run one of the 2 trucks that I purchased. But I think that if people didn't see the original Ripper maintain an increase in value, you would see a lot less sales on the Origin. So while they don't get any money for the increased value, they absolutely get more customers, because the original Ripper did so well in terms of not only performance or looks and performance, but also resale value, that you're going to get a whole lot more people that want to buy the next version. So, I mean, it's simple supply and demand. I would say that, they have set themselves up for success there, because there are a lot of people that have purchased and want to purchase this truck specifically because they've seen the price of the Ripper go from $1,800 to potentially $15,000 to $20,000 with the right configuration. While they don't see that huge increase in profit, it does help their profit margins on this truck, or really it helps their sales on this truck because they're able to sell them a lot better. So just my opinion there. Take that for what it is. Now moving into the truck itself, I mean, the truck is beautiful. We've seen the front axle. The only change on the front axle is the hubs. The hubs are different on the Origin versus the aluminum hubs that you can buy for the H10 Optic or the regular H10 axles. The wheels are special or specific to this truck. The entire theme of the truck is to be old school Bronco. You can see that in the grille and really the body lines and everything else. It's not super apparent, but the more you compare the Origin to an old school Bronco in pictures, you'll start to see a lot of similarities, which is really cool. Keeping with the old school Bronco theme, these are legitimate Battle-Born wheels. And the owner of Battle-Born actually stated that these wheels were one of the hottest wheel in the original Bronco era. And so he recommended to go with these wheels. I'm going to be honest with you, when I first saw the live stream and the wheels that it was coming with, I was a little disappointed. I was let down. I felt like, they were really generic looking, and I wasn't extremely excited about them. However, getting them in my hands and putting scale hardware in them, because the truck doesn't come with that, I put that in there. And then I also put this slim IFR in there. Again, the truck doesn't come with that, so I had to add it. But Jake, why didn't they include that stuff? And that goes back to the price. So if the more add-ons that I add, there's 3 different colors of scale hardware, the more room for error. And I would hate to be Vanquish if they accidentally sent out the wrong scale hardware, or the wrong axle color or whatever. Somebody's going to post it on Facebook and be like, Vanquish, you suck. What's the deal? And they're not actually going to have reached out to Vanquish and try and rectify the situation. They're just going to go straight to complaining. Now, maybe not so much with the high-end market, but that is what happens all the time. People are dissatisfied with something, and instead of going to the vendor and having the vendor make it right, they just go straight to social media and complain about it. Can't please everyone. It is what it is. So yeah, I agree. I think that the scale hardware and the other accessories, you need to purchase those. Again, going back to the price, $3,500 is cheap. If you spend another $500 to $1,000 on accessorizing the truck, it's still relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things. So these hubs in here, they did not come with it. I had to purchase those and add them, and I'm glad that I did, because they really make the whole wheel and combination pop. Highly recommend these. They look really good. Moving to the rear axle, since we covered the front, the rear axle is really where we see just amazing work, right? The rear axle is completely different from the H10 aluminum version that you can purchase for the H10 rear axle kit. It is significantly different. There are scale welds on the rear axle, first of all, so those were machined in there. I'm sure that probably took hours, days, maybe even weeks to perfect. But also the pumpkin is a little wider. So the pumpkin's wider. The brace on the axle is square instead of round. It's more square instead of round. It's also actually a little bit bigger. The axle pumpkin itself, there's no Curry brand because the brace is in the way. However, there is a VP logo on the axle. And then the final change is the upper link placement. On the regular H10, it is straight. However, on this H10, it kind of angles out, so the links go at an angle, which is really the last difference between them. The rest of the components are the same. The diff, the axles, everything else is going to be the same as the regular H10. Let's move up, shall we? Let's talk about the chassis. So the chassis itself is a one-piece, well, it's a 3-piece chassis. It's probably more than that, but we're going to call it a 3-piece chassis. You have the passenger side or the right side, you have the left side or the driver's side, and those are bolted together or screwed together with many different pieces. The reason that I call it a 3-piece chassis is because you have 1, 2, and then the middle piece, which is multiple pieces. So an example, the middle piece in the back is going to be the number identifier for the serial number. So that's the first piece for the middle section. You have another middle piece here, which would be the air tank holder / brace for the bed. I think we're going to make some scale parts to put there. I'm not sure. And then the other middle piece is going to be the front chassis support section here. And then finally, there's a plastic piece under the panels here that is connected to this bumper. You're getting, you're getting really one plastic piece that holds the entire chassis together in terms of the frame. Now, looking at the bottom of the truck, we have the VFD transmission, so the non-VFD twin, the regular VFD skid, which comes in many kits. The skid is different between the VRD and the VS410, but it's the same transmission. So, however, the skid is the same between those other trucks, the Ford Ice, the VS410, etc. The only addition here is just like on the Optic, you have these plastic slider tabs that connect the chassis to the skid plate. Again, I would prefer plastic on the bottom. You're not going to see it, first of all. Second of all, it'll slide over the rocks and stuff better. But Jake, you're actually going to run this truck? Absolutely. I am absolutely going to run the truck. The reason that I don't have footage of this truck running today in this video is because I am trying to do a giveaway for an Origin. Unfortunately, the channel doesn't make enough money to give one away yet, but I have created a giveaway where you purchase tickets, and then once all of the tickets are sold, there will be a winner drawn, and there's 3 options. One of the options is to take one of my trucks, so this one or the other one that I have coming. The second option is to take the cash, and then the third option is to either take the cash and buy an Origin, or I can order an Origin for you, whatever color choices that you want, and have it shipped to your door. That is really the primary driver behind not driving this truck, is I don't want it to get scratched, dented, etc., and then somebody wants it for the giveaway truck. So I want them to get a brand new truck just like I got. Granted, it'll have been put together, but it still is in brand new condition. There are no scratches, there's no dents, there's no signs of driving anywhere. So that'll be up to the winner to decide what they want to do, which is, again, why I haven't driven the truck. So we've talked about pretty much everything except for really two to three main pieces. The other piece that we haven't talked about is the carbon fiber. So the carbon fiber roof, it's awesome, right? I think if you're going to trail the truck or drive the truck, maybe you want to buy a Optic top so that way you don't scratch the carbon. But for me, when I do run the truck or run a truck, I'll probably just get a clear vinyl wrap, and I'll wrap the hood, and I'll probably wrap the major sections of the body panels. The other carbon aspect is the carbon fiber number plates, which are a really cool touch. Those look really good as well. And then the final carbon piece is, now don't judge the wiring. Again, this truck is just quick thrown together because I wanted to make this video for it. But typically I have the wiring nice and neat. However, since this is potentially a giveaway truck, I didn't want to zip tie and do a bunch of other stuff. And the other carbon piece is the piece attached to the door panel. So the door panel is, and I could talk about this entire truck for hours, maybe even days, but the door panel is screwed together from the inside, so there are no external screws, which is fantastic, but we're talking about the carbon fiber here, and this is where the battery goes. So it just slides into place very carefully, like such. And then just like on the Optic, you have a pin that comes through the floor. However, I just put it through the top for the time being because it's not going to fall out and we're not really running it. So slides into place, holds it all together, and you have no screws visible from the side. Now, the final piece that I want to talk about is the shocks. So the shocks are the stock Vanquish SAD shocks. They're go-to for everything. There's really nothing wrong with the shocks. I think that they actually function really well. The only issue with them is, I really don't like saying this, but I can't, there's not a single set of Vanquish shocks that I have where at least one isn't leaking. And so I've tried the green slime, I've tried a lot of different things, and I'm not sure how I can rectify that, that from happening, right? I don't even fill the shock up all the way. As you'll see in the installation video, which is completely separate, by the way, and is just me putting it together, but it's going to be a long, excruciating video, so if you're bored one day, you can watch it. However, if you watch that video, you'll see that I did add green slime to every single one of the shock shafts, and there are still a couple of shocks that are leaking on this truck. And I haven't even run the truck, right? It's either been sitting like this off the ground, or it's been sitting on the tires for transport in some of the pictures that you saw. Yeah, huge shout out to Aaron M, by the way. Great pictures. He is not very far from me. He ordered a orange chassis with blue panels, and his truck it's beautiful. In person, these trucks look way better than any picture that you could get. I was a little on the fence about the orange. It kind of looks gold in some pictures and oranges in the others, but in person, I mean, it's just absolutely stunning. The shocks are the final piece. They did come with the updated anodized aluminum hardware that you can purchase on the Vanquish website. It's really a nice touch. As you can see, the red protruding from the hood there, and the shock collars for the springs, those are anodized as well. The only plastic on the truck that I'm not a huge fan of is the fuel cell. I think that maybe we could have done a little something better with that, but again, I get it. I'm not mad about it. The other plastic would be the interior, and this could go either way. I'm fine with the interior because I'm going to build my own, but some people may have wanted a more elaborate interior. I don't know. Reach out tonight. The dude does great work on the optic stuff. The optic interior will fit in here, so maybe you can get him to make you a custom interior. Outside of that, the tires I chose were BFG crawlers from Proline. They were not my first choice. However, they were the only option in the hobby store that I wanted. The other choice was the Maxxis Trepidors. They didn't have a set in my hobby shop, so I went with the crawlers. I wanted a scale licensed tire for the truck. I think that the Treps would have looked a little better on it and kind of gone more with the bouncer-ish theme than the crawlers, but the crawlers will work as well. There's probably many other tires out there that will look as good and probably perform just as good, but it is what it is. I like these tires, so I like the fact that these are really good tires. They wear way slower than a lot of the other tires, and they work just as good. In some cases they don't, but for the rest of the attributes, they work really well. The servo that I went with is a Shift GT3 servo. I had that laying around, so I threw it in there. The motor, I went with the Fusion Pro 2300 kV. I don't know that I'll change it. It'll work just fine for what I want to do with it. If I did change it though, it would be to the new Holmes Hobby 2-in-1 that is capable of doing 4S. However, the headlights are wired in through a relay directly to the battery. The controller for the headlights is only 3S capable. So if I were to run 4S in the truck, I would have to hook the headlights to the receiver instead of the battery. They are extremely bright. I wish that they would come out with rigid light bars again, because I would buy probably 10 of them for different applications, but it is what it is. The rigid headlights work really good, and not only in this truck, but also in the VS410 headlights, and they also have rigid pods. So the other question I had is, how much does it weigh? At 0 on the scales, we are going to take a screenshot, and it is a 54% front biased, a 46% rear biased. The total weight is 118 ounces, which is 7.37 pounds. So it's actually a lot heavier than I thought it was. Doesn't feel like it's that much weight. Left bias is 52%. The right bias is 48%, which will actually increase because I have the battery on the left side versus the right side. So I probably need to move all of the wiring and electronics to the right side. Screenshot will be somewhere on the screen so you can see it for yourself. I just assumed that it was around the 5-pound range. So if you're going to We Rock this year and you have an Origin, I think that this actually qualifies for the Pro Mod class. All you really need to do to be competitive is to add some brass or centered rings to your front wheels, get the weight up there a little more, add dig to it, and boom, you've got yourself a drag axle comp truck. And it would probably be a very scale there. It would be really cool to see. I wonder if We Rock's going to add an Origin class. That would be really cool, actually. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. The $3,500 Vanquish Origin. Would I buy it again given the opportunity? Yeah, I would. I'd buy 2 again, just like I did this time. Now, I will say that when I made the purchase, the colors were not, I didn't really think the colors through. However, I'm glad that I got the colors that I did. This turned out excellent. Huge shout out to the Vanquish team. Did a fantastic job. Not just the machinists, but also the people that are packaging, delivering, all. It takes a village, and I want to make sure that all of you guys know that, you know, everything came out perfect. Again, huge shout out to all the Vanquish members. It's just a masterpiece. Like I said, I could sit here and talk forever about it, but I'm going to end the video because it's already long enough. There will be a second video, like I said, that's released today as well for the build process. If you haven't, the link is in the description below. Get yourself a ticket or 10 for potentially winning one of these. Huge shout out to the TABO club members. And as always, we hope you have a great day.